Hi, nice to see you guys again. Well, at least you guys can see me. It sounds better the second time around, doesn't it? All right, I want to talk tonight about how we view things. One of the things that happens as we start to change our position because God is leading us into new things is we have doctrines that have been established in our heart and in our mind that lead us down certain pathways. And one of the things we need to understand is that when we hear a term like faith, or like grace, or like tithing, or like confession, or like prayer, they all bring up a certain element and a way of thinking. And the difficulty we find is that a lot of the stuff that we've been taught, especially in the Word of Faith, has been taught incorrectly. In fact, when we start to talk about faith, I need faith to do something. Faith for us in the Word of Faith was a weapon that we used or a power that I tapped into. I had to get into faith, I had to use my faith, I had to go out and reach out by faith, I had to do all this stuff by faith, which really was an excuse for getting into the flesh. It had nothing to do with God, it was just my effort trying to do what only God could do. And so when we start to understand and we looked at it again and God revealed to us what he was talking about, especially the Apostle Paul, who says in at least 2, maybe 3 places, the just shall live by faith. When we go back to what he was quoting out of Habakkuk, we see that Habakkuk is teaching us about faith not being our faith, not even being God's faith, because in the Word of Faith sometimes we talked about, this isn't our faith, it's God's faith in us. Basically, it's God's faithfulness towards us. That we, who he has made righteous, that's those that are born again, we depend and look to and are carried along by God's faithfulness towards us. And so that's a very different position than me having the super force that will drive me to go and do something or to get something, get one of the benefits. And so what happens is we have to either reprogram our minds with those terminologies or change the terminology. Instead of talking about faith, we talk about faithfulness. And so what happens is it changes how we view things. See, the number one thing that always the flesh loves is to get involved. It hates to be not involved. And the difficulty we face is that legalism loves involving the flesh, and the flesh loves legalism with a passion. And so, you've got this flesh that we live with, that we contend with every day for our position with the Lord, and the flesh has always been dragged off into legalism. And often what we've been taught in the past drives that legalism in our life. And so it's this difficult pathway that we go through with it. But for me, the focus has to become that we focus on the goodness of God. We focus on the fact that it's God's goodness towards us, his faithfulness towards us, and his love for us. And we yield to that position. We focus on his position with us, and we allow him access to our life, not as God, not as the lawgiver, not as all these other the benefit giver, all these other ways we view God, but simply as a loving Father, as someone that I can have an intimate relationship with, who, as far as that relationship is concerned, no one else exists except me and him. And that I can have an intimacy with him that is unheard of. And that because of that intimacy, I can come in peace. I can come to a place of rest. I can stop my striving in the flesh to get what he's already given me. And so for me, it's difficult. This is the battle that we face. Before the Word of Faith, we were in the charismatic move, and it was always about the devil. The devil made me do it, and the devil, I'm fighting him, and the truth of it is we don't really fight the devil at all, other than the devil in our flesh. Because the devil loves legalism and our flesh loves legalism. And legalism is the devil's system. And so really the devil we fight is our own flesh. I'm not saying the devil doesn't exist, but when you understand that he's limited to time and space, We don't have as much problems with him as you get to hear sometimes. It's not his fault. It's our flesh wanting to do certain things. Yes, it wants to tap into his system, which is, turning our back on God, going out and getting it ourselves. Because that's the original thing that he got Eve to do. Eve was deceived because she thought she was lacking some good thing from God. And the only way she could get it was to go in her own strength and her own ability and her own flesh, turn her back on God and go and get it for herself. And we know the outcome of that was death. Death in every circumstance. Death in a living death, a living hell that we made for ourselves. And in this modern world, we lived in that living hell. It's called stress. It's called worry. It's called all those things that we look at and we live with, and it causes us all sorts of terrible things to happen in our own physical bodies and in our relationships and in our lives, and it drives us to such a degree. So for me, one of the things that I see is that once I focus on God's goodness towards me, and that it doesn't matter how I respond to him. It's not important whether I love him or don't love him. What's significant is he loves me first and foremost. And I respond to that. Yeah, I respond to that with love, but so often we focus on our efforts. This isn't about what I can do. It's about what he's already done and my response to that. I respond to his kindness and goodness towards me. His faithfulness towards me has enabled me to be in this position of peace. I can cease from striving. The Good Shepherd leads me beside still waters, and there I feed to my heart's content. There I have every need taken care of. There I'm protected. There I have my provision. Why? Because I'm at a place of peace. But look, if we get nothing other than a lack of stress, a lack of fear in our life, we'd be better off than the majority of people that live on this earth. If that's all we got from the Lord, that would be more than enough. It would cause us to walk in health. It would cause us to walk in happiness and all those things. But see, that's just the fringe benefits of finding peace. True, abiding peace. Peace the world cannot give. That starts at a heart level and moves out from there. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about, look, we need to understand that we're in a battle. But it's not with the devil. It's not with other people. It's with that part of us that loves to sin. And it was crushed and fatally wounded that day upon the cross. And that's your flesh. And it's not, what we've thought of sin as running amok and doing all these crazy things. They are fruit of sin. Sin is a self-focused position where I think through my efforts I have to go and do something. No, God has done it all. All I could do is trust him enough to let him do it. Yes, doesn't mean I have to do some things. Well, there are some things I need to do to release the Holy Spirit, to work with him so that he can do what only he can do. But it's not to do with my effort, it's to do with what he wants. And it's his power that performs what I can't do. So I just want to encourage you. Listen, it's about relationship. It's not about anything else. It's not about being someone significant in God. It's about the fact that you are significant in God at a relationship point of view. So many people in leadership look at their position as being significant, and they get their self-worth from their position. Listen, your position is that of being loved as a child and a son of the living God. That's what matters. That's what gives us worth. And when we understand that, everything else starts to fall into place. Because we, as a child of my parents, there's nothing I can do to earn that. I am the child of my parents. And what I need to do is walk as a child of my parents. Don't try to be a child of my parents, just be a child of my parents and have a relationship with them in the same way we have a relationship with God. So bless you guys. Have a great time and I'll talk to you later. Thanks. Bless you.